Taccity Unfiltered. We have some special guests this week from the OC County gun owners, right? We have Lucas, Evan, and Brett. How you doing, guys?
Good, right? How you doing?
Well, thank you.
First visit to Tac-City?
Yes.
So, thoughts?
It's cool.
Love it. Yeah. Love the use of the space.
Yeah, great spot, great atmosphere. You got a lot of opportunity to run all sorts of different scenarios.
Right?
We had a little chance to stop down and speak about what's going on, and we got a nice little gold mine here. Congratulations.
So tell all our listeners, what's your organization all about?
Yeah, well, basically, we are a political action committee dedicated in the preservation of our Second Amendment rights, and at the local county level. So we look at our local city councils, school boards, and we look to vet the people that are running for those offices, and in the hopes that they will move on. Because if you look at Sacramento, if you look at Congress, most of those people came from local city councils. So if we stack the deck in our favor, hopefully we can get some of these ridiculous laws, especially in California, changed.
And it's not party driven. It's just all about preserving their Second Amendment rights. Our God-given rights to protect ourselves. We can see what's going on in the world or outside of the United States, and that's what we're trying to do. Is just basically make sure that we align ourselves with people that fight for the.
You had a good point, because during this pandemic, gun sales went through the roof.
Oh yeah.
And I guarantee you, these new gun owners weren't all, politically driven to the right. There were a lot of people on the left who not only were on the edge or were totally against guns, totally changed their mindset.
Well, we're also trying to change the culture, and that means making it less weird, because it's not really that weird. Firearms have been a part of our history and heritage going all the way back before the founding. It's a huge part of the evolution of the Civil War and the end of slavery. Played a huge part in protection of new black people, and they're a huge part of our civil rights. So you need to be aware of it, and there's a lot that's cool in it too.
Let me ask you guys this question real quick. What do you think about when you hear the other side of the coin, or the argument of when they talk about different types of guns and features on the guns, when they talk about hunting? They always use that argument about hunting. Well, you don't need that to hunt, or it's always a hunting argument, right?
Yeah. Because I don't think the Second Amendment was written with hunting in mind. It was made for self-protection and to basically, to prevent, a one single person from or one party from taking over.
Because I'm not going to get a hunting rifle for self-protection.
No, you wouldn't want to. That would be way overpowered. The hunting argument to me is a joke, because the Second Amendment was designed to keep us from tyranny, to keep us free from tyranny. So if our government decided to try to rule us, in a sense, it's our way of defending ourselves. The government's supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. That's the way it was designed. Thank God our forefathers had the foresight to see all this, and gave us our God-given rights to protect ourselves. So that's
the needs versus wants thing. I mean, the fact that they lead with need. Do you need that? Well, but in a free country, that's not what we lead with in these discussions, right? I don't need somebody with a closet full of shoes telling me what I need.
Well, even case in point, one of the best arguments that I feel that I have is, because of why do you need so many guns? Yeah. Why do you need this type of gun? So I'll ask him, do you own a car that goes over any posted speed limit in the entire United States?
I do.
And if you're allowed to buy a car, which you are, that does 200 miles an hour, where in the United States can you do 200 miles an hour on a city road? You can't. Right. But it's your freedom to buy that car. Yeah. So don't.
And however many cars you want.
Yeah, and so don't.
It's also your responsibility to not go at that speed.
Exactly.
That's right.
And people do. Guess what happened? It's against the law.
That's right.
And they most of the time.
And sometimes it's the last thing they ever do.
So it's not really about needs versus wants exactly. It's about responsibility, and that's what we're trying to show people. Is actually it's great for young people, because that's a huge part of growing up, is learning how to be responsible. For a lot of people on the frontier, a gun was a huge part of that story of how they became an adult and learned how to defend their family, provide. Some of that was hunting, but some of it was just learning how to be an adult and learning how to protect not only your rights, but the people that you love and your community.
So we're kind of on the topic of almost kind of like, let's say, gun myths, right? So that we just covered a few of them. For instance, I love the garbage out there when they talk about assault weapons, right? right? Or
Yeah.
an AR. Like they don't even know what AR stands for, right? Give me some of your favorite myths or misconceptions or BS out there. Yeah, I know we
One
got a
of the
few.
ones I heard recently was I think it was a interview. I think he was a general or something. Like he was a military guy. And he was talking about semi-automatic, and then he said, "Okay, this is what it sounds like on full semi-automatic." And he starts shooting, and I'm thinking, "Oh my god, really? Wow!" It's just
Our biggest problem is the uneducated are trying to educate
That's right.
folks about guns, and they don't know what they're talking about. That's the sad part. And anyone with half a brain, or even a computer, or even a smartphone, can go on the internet and look up what they're talking about, and find out how foolish they are.
You know how many people that some of my friends.
We're the fact checkers. And that's
So I'm sure you guys have the same situation. You have people, friends of friends or whatever, reach out to you. I had someone like they were surprised, they were shocked. People they were, let's say, anti-gun or in the middle, that they couldn't during the last pandemic because they were scared.
Sure.
Went in a gun store and surprised they couldn't walk out with a gun the same day. They were shocked. And I said, no, well, you've been listening to too much of the BS out there. That it's so easy to just go in there and get a gun and walk out. It's not that way.
And how long have they been voting?
yeah.
Because they're the ones who voted this into.
So they wanted a
law.
gun now
That's a
because
scary
that's what they felt at that moment.
right.
Which I understand their feelings,
Yep.
but
I'm sure I saw that a lot. Running a firearm safety company, that question came up by even my direct neighbors across the street. Hey, can I borrow? No, I can't. That's illegal.
It's illegal.
I just want to
It used to be that you could, but now it is illegal.
Now it's illegal, especially in
that's right.
California. Why can't I just walk in?
What
Why do I
could
have to take
possibly
a
go
test?
that's a good question. Why can't you? But that's the law.
But that's the law,
What
right?
possibly
That's the law
could go wrong?
And that's the law that we, the voters, created.
Yeah.
We allow the politicians to run these rules, laws, up and get voted on, and people were like, oh, that's not big of a deal. We can do away with that. But once you start giving them a little bit they take more and more and more.
How familiar are you guys with the sport of airsoft? What do you know about airsoft? Have you ever?
I'm becoming more and more aware. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
Okay.
So
Have you ever shot an airsoft gun?
no.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I was aware of it. I used to paintball back in the day.
Never
A little
fired an
bit.
airsoft gun?
I've never fired enough.
How about you?
I do. I actually have a couple.
Okay.
I use them mainly to keep rabbits out of my yard.
Okay.
I also use them for training of dogs.
Okay.
From distance, they reach out and touch somebody from a little bit of ways.
You have rifles or pistols? What do you got?
Yes.
Oh.
One of each.
Yes.
Yes.
One of each. No, I, and like Lucas said, the paintball world, I was in that as a very young man in my teens. I've been an advocate for anything that sends a projectile downrange. Airsofts are fun. It's amazing how far they've come. The look and feel of them are somewhat almost exact in certain
And
situations.
we'll get you to fire some guns before you leave too, so
Yeah.
you get a feel for it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have never fired one.
Yeah. Give me a break. So you're a poser? Is that what you
No,
said?
I want to be able to shoot with these guys. Any chance I get to shoot.
We'll get you in the showroom so you can handle some that look realistic,
That's
right?
awesome.
And we'll get you to fire a few and
All right,
get
right
your
on.
opinions as well.
I think the realistic thing is important too, because the closest it is to the real thing, that's key for training young people, getting them the basics of where's the muzzle, where's your finger, pay attention where your finger is, where's the safety, does it have a safety?
Familiarity, right?
And then also, what do you personally like? Some people like the Glock platform, some people like the 1911, some people get into the history.
Sure.
I like all of the above, but yeah, it's great.
You know, the Glock 19, probably one of the most popular handguns worldwide,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people that doesn't feel right, or they have to adjust to it. Just because it's a popular gun doesn't mean it's right for you. Right?
Correct.
Made of plastic. Some people don't like that.
Yeah.
The older fogies don't like that, but they'll say,
Those
I
who
want
want a
the steel
reliable
gun.
gun like that.
Right.
1911, what?
I like the 1911.
So there's another thing, and I've said this in the past podcasts. A lot of top shooters, I say, like military vets, special forces guys. We're, as a lot of viewers know, we're real close to a lot of the SEAL community. A lot of friends come up here for training and whatnot. Dry firing is so underrated. People don't realize. You see all these videos of target shooting steel, and all the speed shooting. That's great,
Right.
but a lot of these, like for instance, Tim Kennedy says this a lot. He says 89% of his training is dry fire, and I think airsoft is in that realm. Even though it can be dry fire, but it's one step up from dry fire where you're not shooting anybody, or I should say, ammo, real, it's not lack of guns.
Right.
But the actions, the
Motor skills.
they fit in the same kind of holsters. You can put the same kind of sights and whatever. You get those motor skills in front of the TV with an airsoft gun.
Does it damage the airsoft gun to fire it without?
The pellets.
A lot of we've had a few airsoft folks come to our school. They're some of the best shooters I've ever seen. Right out the
They
gate.
get a lot of reps.
Right out the gate. Right. They've had a lot of reps and they already know what they're doing. Some of them are terribly intelligent on every weapon, different brands, usage, different magazines. I mean, Call of Duty and Airsoft, I think, is revolutionizing a younger generation.
Funny story. One of our past CKB classes, like I said, we had our friends from sexual warfare come up. One of them never played airsoft. He gave a class with airsofters. Was very upfront about knowing nothing about airsoft, just teaching him what he knows that legally he can teach. And after one class, he basically made the statement: if the shit hits the fan, right? I'll take an airsofter over anybody off the street because these guys, at least they have the fundamental movements down, know how to possibly reload, tackle reloads, all that good stuff. And I'll take one of these guys and keep them in Navy SEAL.
They got the motor skills,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the repetition of the
Imagine if they taught gun safety in schools like they teach
I
earthquake
know.
awareness.
Why don't we do that?
Every couple of times a year, our students go through a drill to prepare for an earthquake. Imagine they taught gun safety.
Or we like driver's ed. They said, I don't think so, driver's ed.
I don't think they do, but yeah,
It's been a while for me.
maybe not.
But yeah, I'm an educator, and I'm in the classroom, and we're totally vulnerable. And they have been doing these drills, which are totally pointless. Shooters, active shooter drills, they call them. And one in particular, I pulled up my phone and started live videoing it from the classroom at Royal Marymount University of Los Angeles, where they had us barricade. Intercom came on. It's a university and there's an intercom. I'm like, I've never heard the intercom. That's like so high school. But the intercom came on and said, pretend like this is happening, barricade yourself in the classroom. I said, I went over to my students and I went over to the door and it opens to the outside. And I said, that's how little they care about your safety. They don't even bother to think about basic stuff.
They're just checking out the list. I mean, you gotta do this, girl.
And they said that the fighting is the last resort. And I said, guess what, students? Because our classroom opens to the outside, it's now the first resort. And yet now you're a felon if you fight back.
So there's
That's
like
just wrong.
There's
That is
only,
morally wrong.
my understanding, there's three options, right? There's shelter in place, there's escape, and there's engage. But there's no cookie cutter answer. It depends on the situation.
Exactly.
But if this is correct, if they're just teaching them to shelter in place and now you do it properly or have any idea what that means,
And
then that could be the worst decision of the three.
Yeah, and you're
Including
punished as a
engaging might be
criminal.
the worst, but you don't know, right?
And you're punished as a criminal if you're prepared to fight back. Being prepared is now criminal. See, that in the history of civilization, it has never been criminal to be prepared
Right.
to defend yourself, your life, and your liberty. It's never been until right now. That's a brand new thing. Some people call that progress. It's actually not progress. It's actually going backwards in time.
It's the reverse of progress.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't train in any art to fail. You train to perform. And yeah, it's ridiculous.
The more that you train, or like we were talking earlier about getting your heart rate going, getting in an uncomfortable situation so that it's not new to you. Because you could be trained like crazy in a classroom, target range, whatever, but now you're in a real situation or close to it. That may all go out the window because you're not prepared to apply with. We're talking about MMA training, right? I do a little of that on the side as well. You can teach me everything you want, but until you actually experience that uncomfortable situation, all that knowledge in the world, or if you're gassed out,
Yeah.
your arms as heavy as can be, you may know how to throw a punch like it's nobody's business, but if you can't lift up your arm because you're tired, or the adrenaline just great, what good
You
is
know
it?
how that feels.
What good is the knowledge?
And the information that you deal with in a situation, done by even Airsoft, the amount of information coming in constantly dictates a change in what your response is going to be. So we're talking about schools. We're talking if there's an active shooter, as that person is moving through, that information is constantly changing. And if you don't have the knowledge and the practice to have your brain actually work through the scenario on what is a good shoot, what is a bad shoot, or what is my move now versus if I wait, my next move is going to change. So that constant battle of dealing with new information, second by second by second, is not something you can watch on YouTube or watch on TV or think you're going to pick up. And one of the greatest quotes that we use is in a situation, you're never going to rise to the occasion, you're going to fall back to your training. And if your training isn't there, guess what?
It has to be a default where you don't even think about it. Right. It's like an instinctive reaction, right?
And the best instinct might be to run and get the hell out of there. Like Luke was saying, you get a door let outside and get outside and get the people whatever they're safe.
What I don't like about these fake training situations where they try to instill fear in the students is that doesn't help us move forward. Because what we really need is familiarity with what's going on, with what gun safety is, with the history of firearms. Why can't we talk about
Take
that?
away the mystery.
Why is it the one thing we can't talk about? Why is that censored? I don't understand why that's not censored. We can do it safely.
It's called education.
Yeah, exactly.
They can make a decision. I have family members that know how to shoot guns, but don't own guns. But they at least know the functions of a gun. I'm not sure how they would react in a crisis, but they're at least familiar with it. They're not totally like, which way do I do this? And they at least have an idea.
They can figure it out. Maybe.
It's better than nothing, but some people have no idea.
If the internet goes down and there's no YouTube, we better have some basis for understanding how these things
Please
work.
don't learn on YouTube. Go get professional
There's a lot of
training.
good stuff on YouTube.
There's actually a lot of
There's a lot of bad stuff on YouTube.
We talk about like an active shooter scenario. There's a lot of police officers that don't know what to do because they went to a training 5 years ago, half the day or a day, right? And that's supposed to stick for the rest of their life.
Right.
But then when it hits the fan and they're pumping, I forget. There was an active shooter. I think was it Florida. There's one where one of the cops was on the scene early on and it didn't enter.
Yeah.
Oh, he ran.
Right?
What's another
2018.
Or
Florida.
yeah, right. And then he got.
Yeah,
So my initial reaction, I don't know about you guys, I'm just going to put it out. My initial reaction was, why the hell did he go in? Now, with that being said, I know this was a really debatable on a lot of different sides of it. I can't speak for him. He might have been scared to death. I can't, you do what you can do, right? But the problem is, he should have that training where it wasn't as uncomfortable as it probably was, or he was scared, or whatever was going through his mind. That he knew how to default to his training and do what he needs to do instead of waiting for backup. Sometimes it may be the case, but other times you need to get in there, do something.
And it's, when those sheepdogs engage and go in right away when something starts, the statistics of less people injured or killed is tremendously lower than waiting and standing outside and letting the folks inside do their thing. It's
and then the training also with that, because I know a lot of police departments come here to train. They train some of those scenarios is they have to know, like sometimes just going in wild, you don't know who's that actual shooter or not.
No.
How do you know there's a guy in there that's a CCW? How do you know he's a bad guy or not?
Absolutely.
So you need to, again, default to your training, be able to read, right? I mean,
well, and part of the law enforcement wise, your counties and your PDs, they talk about defunding. They're underfunded. They don't have the opportunity to do these trainings. I mean, we're seeing obviously now a lot less people looking to sign up to be law enforcement on one level or the other.
Yep.
And it's sad because if you call the police department and order food at the same time, see who gets there first. See who's going to get there first. So if you're in an emergency situation and you're hungry, you're good. But if you're in an emergency situation where your life's in jeopardy, you better not defend yourself for at least 15 minutes.
I think, and this is my personal opinion, instead of having to focus or have a lot of training on qualifying every year or whatever it may be, shooting targets, I think that's a little, how do I put this? Overrated, right? Because shooting, that's not, I think it's more about it's better than nothing, but I think more training as far as handling stressful situations, right? As opposed to I'm going to the range and qualifying, all right, I'm good to go. I mean, the whole goal is probably not to pull that firearm and not to shoot anybody, but get a stressful situation when you have it pulled and knowing when to shoot, not to shoot, as much as possible, right?
Yeah, one of the things I love about doing what we do is that we've created a culture along with concealed carry, legalizing that, making that more accessible to the average person with the right training, is that the free market has risen to the challenge to provide that training. There's a lot of people that have come out of the military or they've come out of law enforcement. They have the skills necessary to train people. And so you have more and more people, they're average everyday people that are getting trained in ways that we've never seen in the history of our country on the platforms that exist. And the technology has never been more accessible, never been more, even with the crazy laws here, it's never been more accessible to the average person. It's really kind of an exciting time.
Even the gun manufacturers are getting on that too, because now you see the more compact, pistols and for the CCW market. You see the trend that way as well.
So what are some things you guys plan for the future? What are some of your goals as far as what would you hope to see here in California?
I just like to see more, more membership, more people getting involved. That's kind of the biggest thing, because I think here in people kind of get, I would say lazy, but they're complacent. Sure. And they don't want to do the legwork. I had one guy come up a couple years ago during one of the our monthly meetings. He said, "Oh, Evan, I got this great idea," and then he gave me kind of a spiel, and okay, fine. And then my question to him was something like, "Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Who are you going to call?" And his response basically was, "Well, I'm just an idea guy," and he turned around and walked away.
He's an idea guy.
And I'm just kind of sitting here going, "Okay. You expect me to do it,
And they do. Yeah. They expect us to take their ideas and be the ones in the fight. But we're already in the fight. We're already doing this. And so our goal, Orange County Gun Owners' goal, like the other county gun owners packs that are involved, is to educate people, but also we talk about vet the politicians that are running. Well, the support that we have, we need more. Orange County I've been in marketing for most of my entire professional career. Marketing in Orange County is different. When the recession hit, it didn't really hit Orange County as bad as in other places. So take that same concept in this fight, and it's like, oh, well, you're already doing it? Well, then I'm good. I don't need to. No, you need to. And if you can't get out there and actively do something, that's perfectly fine. Your $10 a month does help the organization grow and put more resources in to vet more politicians on whatever levels. It allows us to get out there and do more work. That is the fuel behind what allows us to get the word out more, get to more places. Because those of us that are actively doing stuff, we can't be everywhere. And there might be something going on here in Fullerton, there might be something going on in South County. It's hard to divide, divide and conquer
Limited resources
when we don't have enough people to do that. So we're looking for more people that want to get involved. I'm hoping that the younger generation, college and above, gets into this because they're the ones who are going to suffer the most. The cost of buying a gun here in California is almost double in most other states, and that is another act on poverty that I think is unfair. If you're in a poverty situation or living check to check, and one small car breakdown could really set you off, how are you supposed to be able to spend a few dollars to protect yourself and your family? We saw in 2020, about 40% of new gun owners, not folks that had already bought guns. 40% of new, brand new, never owned a gun owners. The majority of them were women, single mothers, women who live alone, ladies who've been divorced. They wanted to protect themselves because they realized that their 911 or whatever their
Two
protection.
women in my family, they were first-time gun owners last year too.
And I'll tell you something. Next to airsoft shooters, women are some of the best shooters out there. They come in shooting better than men.
You know what? I'm glad you say that, because I've seen that in paintball and airsoft as well as far as first-time players and even just sport-wise. And my theory on that, I guess I'm generalizing, of course, like women seem to be more methodical and good learners and like focus on details and actually apply it. When guys were like shooting everything, I got look, we're shooting. Look, how many rounds does it have? The women get very like, I'm here for a purpose. I want to do this. I want to do this, and they listen. They're good students.
And not to counter, but to parallel that, my philosophy is we as men try to fix everything. So when you're dealing with recoil, it's like, well, if I shoot and the gun goes this way, well, if I do this, I'm countering it. Well, that's the worst thing you do, obviously, as well.
Correct, yeah.
Women don't care.
On that note, let me pitch this. Not Me OC is a campaign that we're running. Not Me OC, and it's specifically for women to get training and to get up to speed basically on the Second Amendment and their rights under the Second Amendment, the rights that they should have that they don't have in some cases, but making the most of what they have. I'm an educator. I'm a military veteran, trained by Navy SEALs. I spent 7 years in the United States Navy. And then I got a PhD in constitutional law. I was teaching the Second Amendment at Cal State Fullerton. We just finished the First Amendment. It was the spring of 2018 when the Florida thing happened. We are just now on the Second Amendment. And I saw, because most of my class was women, young women, and this is the first time they were ever reading anything about these cases or anything like that. I had them read Heller versus District of Columbia and McDonald versus Chicago. And McDonald versus Chicago was about the city of Chicago telling a black man that you cannot have a gun. You have to rely on the police to be your bodyguard. So then right after that, Black Lives Matter was started in 2014. The whole thing about the police being your bodyguard totally goes against the many people in that movement. So I was trying to make it more coherent and say, let's think about this a little bit more carefully. As a principal, do you want to have to rely on the police to be your bodyguard, or do you have a right to defend yourself? Many women never had made those connections. And so we're doing Not Me OC. It's actually run by women. And the lady we brought with us is not on camera right now, but you can connect with us on our website, OrangeCountyGunOwners.com.
It's a mentorship too, so questions we want them to ask questions that they may be afraid to ask in an open environment. Each person will be set with a mentor to walk them through the first levels of gun ownership or entering the gun world. They'll set them up with instructors or schools that offer classes to better educate themselves. So instead of trying to fumble through some sort of online source or resource to find what's best for them, they're going to get mentored by people that already know of good places.
I think that's a good point, because I think there's a lot of first-time female gun owners have reached a tipping point to go all in. Maybe they were had an attack, super scared, and then they don't care. They want to go. They had enough. They're going in. Where you probably have a larger number that's on the edge,
yes.
but because they don't go to meet a man to teacher, a complete stranger, whatever. Yeah. But a female mentor would get that larger block to.
I agree.
Take that next step.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to waiting for them to enough is enough. I'm going in regardless of by myself or not.
Right. And also, my hope is that the thought process of what they're getting into is also changed. I've been instructing privately now for just over 5 years. I've been trained by some amazing instructors, from military to guys out of Langley, Virginia, special forces, SEAL teams, all that stuff, and that's all great. But what comes down to also is being able to connect with and work through the fear of it. One of my favorite stories is from a woman who we had a whole family. There's 15 of them, all related some way, marriage or whatever, all came through. They were all anti-gun prior to 2020. This one particular lady, the first time she set a round down range, she burst out in tears, put the gun down, and ran out crying. I mean, full-on crying. I couldn't leave the range at that moment because I had other students on the line. After I was able to get another range instructor on the range, I went out. The first thing she said to me when I came out the door was, "I'm going back in there, I'm doing this." And she had worked through her fear outside, and she went back in there. She didn't get all the rounds that she would have been allowed to put down the range, but she kind of came back in there and operated more. And now, fast forward a year, maybe 2 months, so 14 months later, she owns probably 3 handguns and 1 shotgun. She's at the range on a regular basis. She's got her kids, who were anti-wet guns as well, shooting with her as well. So her character, her demeanor, and her thought process has changed 180 degrees. And she understands that it's a tool. It is another tool, yes. Because your first move is, if you're dealing with a situation, is to call the police. But then you have to defend yourself between that time and the time they get there.
Sure.
And that could be that window could be anywhere between, if you're lucky, 3 to 5 minutes. If you're unlucky, 15 to 30. And
would you rather wait seconds or 3 minutes or more?
And if you're using your cell phone to call law enforcement, you are going through a whole different
That's
channel.
right.
Which
The
is
cell
taking
phones
even
are different.
longer.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
And people don't realize that.
Landlines are more direct, right?
So hopefully they get an instructor or a school that teaches them today's situations.
You know, a lot of that same mentality can relate to martial arts as well.
Absolutely.
Like jiu-jitsu and whatnot, right? 'Cause there's a lot of women that want to learn, but I don't want to go into a male-dominated class, whatever. So that's why a lot of like classes tailor towards women to introduce them, and then once they get introduced, then they're like,
They're on.
I'll choke out guys left and right.
Oh yeah.
But they have to get that comfort level, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And the experience too.
Well, and the policies are just another impediment to women getting involved because there's a culture, there's peer pressure, and there's a culture of shame that's on the same side of some of those harmful policies, some of those anti-civil rights policies.
You want a gun?
Yeah, you have to kind of get them the confidence, and sometimes it takes a tragedy or something really bad. And unfortunately, see, it shouldn't be that way. For me, it's a civil rights issue. This is about what you want to do. This is what you want. If you want to get leveled up, you want to get trained, you should have the total freedom to do that. That's where I'm coming from. And I think that that's a healthier society instead of one that's a sledgehammer approach where the government's going to solve all your problems for us. And if we don't show up when you really need us, then you can't sue us and we're not responsible.
So I have a mentality overall in my life, and I try to influence some of my family members as well. Is just a simple phrase: help is not on the way. Simple as that. So what if help is not on the way? What if
Yeah.
we get hit with an
Sometimes it
EMT
is, but
and
earthquake.
anything electronic is done? Cell phones, gas, banks, whatever, food,
What if?
supermarkets. Now what? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a little
worst case
scary.
scenario, but let's just start about just one little thing in part of your life. Help is not on the way. What if?
So along those lines, but even worse, what runs our electricity here in our part of California?
Like
I mean, what produces it?
What produces it?
What produces it? I think it's coal, right?
Colorado River
water?
and Lake Mead. The majority of our
Drought.
electricity.
Yeah.
Those levels are so far down right now that I was talking to a guy who studies dams. If that level continues to drop, we're looking at an electricity shortage in California, Arizona as well, where our stuff can't operate. So you talk about
No electricity. What is it? How does it affect
how's
your
that going
life?
to affect our life?
Computers, cell towers,
Cars,
banks,
cars now,
gas. You can't.
gas,
Yeah.
everything. So
If you're not mobile, you can't buy food. You can't get your funds in the bank.
And it's illegal for you to protect yourself. That's
Right. So that's another thing,
There's
right?
far too much power to the
mentioned-
police.
It's kind of. I say this. It's funny. The show Walking Dead, right? One of their taglines early on was, "Fight the dead, fear the living." People don't realize. People who don't watch the show, it's not just zombies. It's about the living and how people. We've got a little sliver
that
of
show
that in the
had to
last
be-
year, right? Well, people are freaking out about toilet paper and fights on the planes, whatever. We just got a little glimpse
Sure,
of,
yeah, yeah.
and it wasn't even like a full on,
No.
everything shut down. It was just
Yeah.
like they just freaked out and like
yeah.
it's not. I'm not worried. I'm worried about. I've got something that he wants.
That show probably did a lot for your business, I would imagine.
Yeah, zombies were always popular here, right? Okay, so they're asking me, is airsoft effective for training for real weapons? Well, I think we kind of covered that. I think it's a.
well, the real weapons are a little louder.
Is that?
The
Oh,
real,
yeah, yeah,
a little
yeah.
louder.
Okay, we have
That
that.
changes people.
Yeah,
that
airsoft.
changes.
Yeah, you know it's
Or you
funny.
could just yell while you shoot the airsoft.
Yeah,
gun.
I
Pow,
know.
pow, pow,
Very
pow.
close.
I love movies, right? And when I watch movies, I love the fact when there's a bad guy shooting somebody in a car or something. Like, really? Like he's not going to have any effect on that, or it's not going to blow your ear guns out, but it looks cool.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Well,
That's kind of silly.
Sonny, to that point, shooting through a windshield.
Yeah.
People think that if you run around straight through the windshield, it's going to continue to go straight. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
the side way, it changes. The trajectory changes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of myths.
You might still hit a body, but it's still getting.
It's getting redirected. There's a lot of myths out there.
My wife doesn't like to
Movie
watch
world.
movies and TV with me anymore. I'm like, that's not the sound of
I'm the
it.
same way.
So now the hammer's back. Okay, I got it.
Or I love the one when they pull it up and you hear the hammer cocking. Yeah, that's like a Glock or something.
Or when they pull out and you get behind the car door for cover.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
What was it? You guys remember with Mike Glover
Thank God.
from Fieldcraft Survival?
Yeah. Okay.
Ex-Green Beret, whatever. He has a lot of self-defense classes and shooting. And he has a class dealing with fighting behind a vehicle. right? And he goes to this, he basically says a car or vehicle is a bullet magnet. Says if at all, get away from a car. And if that's the only thing you got, fine. But if you have any chance, get away from it because you're gonna get hurt just by standing next to that car. He says the only chance you have, he says not the engine block, not always. I mean, the thing that's solid is probably like the supports, but they're this thin, right? You want to get away from that car as much as possible. I mean, there's all these, but in movies you see it left and right. Get behind that car. We're good now. Are you kidding me? Get the heck. You're waiting to get killed, right?
Unless it's pre-1975.
Like a real, not an aluminum car, right? Can you use airsoft and accessories on real steel guns?
No.
No, but you can use. Well, let's put it this way: they can fit and they can attach, but they won't perform.
They won't last.
Exactly. Now I've had people here that have put like EOTech sights and whatnot on airsoft guns.
That'll work all day long.
They'll still work and they'll last probably longer than the gun. But going the other way, they won't last. They'll attach and they may work, but they won't take the abuse.
They won't. We had a gentleman come through one of our rifle classes with an AR-15 all decked out with all kinds of gear. It looked really
Looked
nice. After about 10 rounds, all that stuff started falling apart, like literally falling off of it.
Wow.
And also, you know, in our world, we Loctite pretty much everything down because of the velocity and the percussion and everything else. Airsoft world, I don't think they're doing Loctite.
They do some, but for the most part, yeah, they're just tightening things up.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing with the gear too. So we sell some real steel brands like High Speed Gear, Condor, some 511 things of that nature. But we also have a lot of airsoft only knockoff versions of it. They're good enough, but if you're lacking depending on the stitching and the materials, not so much.
So you guys do free gun competitions with airsoft? Is that right?
Yes, we do. Actually, the first one we've had in a year, obviously, is October 3rd.
Wow.
So if you guys want to come by, you can come check it out.
I'm just curious because I have to talk to the boss. But like, you know, what's a price range that you could get rigged up for that?
Okay, so
What do you think?
So
Starting from zero.
So let's say in the real steel gun world, right? There's obviously levels of brands, and you could have a Wilson Combat way up here, and Springfield down here, right?
Okay.
So good enough, right? So
You said Wilson Combat. Just want to let you know.
No, I mean,
I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying they're very expensive. They're nice guns. I'm just
It's
saying
expensive for me. Okay.
they're nice.
Yeah.
Same thing in the airsoft world. So I would say, let's say for instance, a pistol, the lowest I would go retail, I guess it depends where you get it. I wouldn't pay anything less than $150 for a pistol.
Okay.
The sky's the limit. You can go up to $800 on a pistol, but I wouldn't go that high. I would say if you're 150 to 250, you're good to go.
Okay.
Stock, because you can always add all kinds of crap. Rifle, AR, I would say stay above 200 to 500, right in there.
Okay.
Shotguns, there's less options, and I've been hammering this industry for years, let's get more options. There's some that are gas blowback, and most of them are springers, meaning it's just a big spring pocket, and they have what they call tri-shots. So they have a shotgun shell, and they have 30 BBs in them, but every time you shoot it, 3 BBs come out, a little burst.
Oh, that's interesting.
Kind of like a shotgun, but small scale 3, right?
it's with a slug.
Kind of, right? A powder of 3, right? And they have gas shotguns that are gas related, and they give a little more kick. Same
cool.
kind of concept. But I would say in the shotgun range, that varies anywhere from like $70 to $300 per shotgun. Wow.
So let me ask you, what's the resale value of used airsoft guns?
Oh, it drops like everything else.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
precious metal world, that I'm in, the gun world, to me the precious metals are precision tools. Resale values usually pretty close to actual purchase price,
So
especially in California.
I was gonna say, my first reaction was the history of that, but now, like current day, that's a good question because everything's overpriced right now. Even used, beat up equipment, right? Cars, you name it, everything's like through the roof. So, good question. I don't know what I would get for that, but in the past, not even close.
Well, and as firearms age and new editions come out, new versions come out, generations come out, the older ones become more sought after. Case in point,
that's right.
when I was 21 years old, I
Hence
bought
the 1911.
a real gun, a Glock 21, and it was the very first version of it. I've owned it since then, many, many years ago. So recently, 2 years ago, I took it in to have some work done on it, and the gentleman who was the gunsmith looked at it and he's like, "So when did you buy this?" I'm like, "I don't know, back in like 1992, probably."
Like Gen 1 or something?
It was.
it Gen 1?
It was four points on the new ones and 3 points on mine. He was like, "You need to never shoot this thing. It's worth quite a bit of money now because it was pre-Gen 1, but later on called Gen 1." And there's something about it that it only has 3 pins versus 4 pins on the lower, on the frame. And so I have since bought another 21 that I use, and I have put this oiled it, put it away. I have the original box and all the stuff came with it, and it's worth about 3 times what I paid for it.
So it's like the old Dr. Seuss books that are not, can't
Yes,
get them anymore.
or the pre-70s encyclopedias, if you remember those.
I do.
Well, you can say the same thing about ammo in the last year, right?
Yeah. See.
But I believe I haven't
That's-
checked
that's
recently,
what
but
I
I think levels are coming back up,
It's
right?
come down. And
Because the hysteria's gone down, right? Is that why?
well,
don't know.
manufacturing has picked back up. The components have picked back up.
Okay.
So there was
Going back down.
theoretically there was never an ammo shortage. We had an 800% gun purchase increase across the country. So everyone that bought a gun was buying 2 boxes of ammo, and that created
Production had to try to catch up to that.
exactly.
Right.
And then we had the whole closure from our amazing government who shut down companies for no reason, basically put them out. Then we had the
Please don't criticize the government.
oh yeah, they're here to help, right? Then we had the component situation where people couldn't find primers or projectiles. Then you had a limitation of gunpowder and all the other stuff too. So there was a whole nice little mix of reasons why people couldn't get stuff. And then you have the folks that are like, "Oh, well, I can't buy ammo. I'll start making it myself." We'll quickly realize how much it costs to buy the reload machine, and you don't start producing great ammo right out the gate either.
It's a process.
Yeah, and they realize that. So they realize they're spending a lot more money up front, where they would have been better off spending their time going to every different store and buying 100 different rounds at a time, and rather than trying to make the stuff.
I had, like I said, I had 2 women in my family that are first-time shooters as of last year. Funniest text thread that I got from both of them. They were asking me literally like, "Hey, where can you get 9mm ammo? I found it here." And they were exchanging notes like where to find ammo. Oh my god! They have never fired a month before that. They were taking some lessons. They bought guns, and they're trying to find out where to find ammo. And they're comparing notes like, ask me grains and all that. Like, oh my god! I never thought I would have this conversation with them before.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Take a picture of it in frame.
And then one of them shoots on the regular, like at least once or twice a month.
Nice. Good for her.
That's awesome.
As she should. It's a perishable skill.
Yeah.
It does not last. You got to keep up the work.
Is there anything you guys want to close with? Kind of reiterate, kind of leave our viewers with closing message?
Yeah, just get involved, get more aware, educate yourself, and that's what not the AOC program is for, for the ladies, and then there's plenty of good schools out there that are teaching.
What's your website?
It's OrangeCountyGunOwners.com. So that's our website.
Facebook.
Facebook page, Instagram page. We run Second Amendment like seminars, discussions on Facebook, how to get your CCW.
Monthly meetings.
Monthly
as well.
meetings.
Live monthly
Live
meetings.
monthly meetings,
Live
yeah.
monthly meetings.
And we're trying to get the shooting socials back into play here. We used to do that pre-pandemic, where you just we bring the guns in, and for X amount of money you pretty much shoot all you want. Nowadays it's we're trying to find the right venue, and of course ammo prices being what they are. Probably.
I wanted to ask this question. CCWs.
Yeah.
So county to county.
Yep.
So last time I checked, Orange County, everybody has opinions. We had almost like a 50% chance of possibly getting one.
Way higher than 50%.
Is it higher now?
Way higher.
Compared to LA, it's like 0, right?
It's like
LA
97.
County now, because of LA County's past, they now have like 2,000 increase because they're starting to dispute because they never came out. Now they are.
Yeah, okay.
So if you never sold something and also your increase goes. So Orange County, you need to have a basic, a good reason, and that can be walking your dog at night. My company, we do the county required course for it, and we help people with their what they call just cause or good cause level. Orange County is the mecca of CCWs. San Bernardino, Riverside, even San Diego, and other counties have absorbed Orange County's process. Our sheriff here, Sheriff Barnes, wants people to have concealed carries. A big part of his voters are concealed carriers. So the more people that go out and get concealed carries, the better.
What's the sheriff's name?
Don Barnes.
Don Barnes. Thank you. So the more people that actually go out and get it, so I'll give you a case point. I was in Alaska a couple of years ago fishing with my uncle, and my uncle come from a Hispanic family, and he's a little worried about stuff getting stolen. So we just came back from catching a bunch of fish, and we're going to go get some food. All our fish in the back of our truck. He said, I'm going to stay with the truck. I don't want anybody to steal our fish. And an Alaska native says, hey man, you ain't got nothing to worry about. No one's going to steal your fish. We all carry guns. No one cares about your fish. We got fish too. And so my uncle, 77 years old, was like, okay, so someone went and got food. Well, he got his food and went back to the truck and ate it there anyways. But the point being is, the more people that are
An armed society.
armed society is a safe society. So the more,
Have we seen murders and gun deaths go up since it's easier to get a gun permit?
They have, but in jurisdictions that have the tightest
Right.
laws,
But it's
like
okay.
in Los Angeles
Orange
County.
County.
But I'm saying, like in Orange County, CCWs are more readily available. Are we seeing like the equivalent in gun deaths?
No.
No.
So then, I mean that's science.
And people feel
That's
safer.
facts, right?
Yeah, and people feel safer. I mean, if you're a criminal for wanting to get trained and wanting to develop an ability to defend yourself that's realistic, absent the police. I mean, if the police are there, great, but they're not always there. And they're not your bodyguards. They never were intended to be your bodyguards. That's not the concept of a police officer.
Hey,
And
maybe
so-
down in Orange County, like they're doing up north, I think it's Marin County or some guys, we can get paid $300 not to get shot and $300 not to shoot anybody. Maybe we can do that.
I haven't
Have
heard
you heard
about
that?
that. I haven't heard about that.
Actually, I have heard about that.
You said Marin County, and I know whatever it is
There's
is
a
crazy.
couple counties up in there.
Yeah, pay people not to shoot
And
people.
they're gonna test it, right, with groups of 10. I mean, testing anything, medical, whatever it may be, in groups of only 10, so you're gonna judge it on those 10 people, and if 8 of them don't die, then hey, we're gonna take this statewide.
Meanwhile,
Bankrupt the state.
they criminalize self-defense.
And then, so
It doesn't work.
Well, isn't the whole concept if you're someone who's a criminal who might kill someone? Isn't the whole point of not to let anybody know that you killed them?
Right?
So then, right? It's like, also, I'm gonna kill them anyways. How do you know how you killed them? I'm still getting paid.
I've been in the classrooms for over 15 years. I guarantee you, they didn't think that one through. Those are people that didn't do the
So
reading.
let's say I do it for 6 months, I get my $600,
They got
and
great-
then
they got grading
the
for it.
7th month, and I get shot because apparently $300 if you don't get shot, and not $300 if you kill somebody or shoot somebody. If in the 7th month I get shot or I shoot somebody, do I have to get that money
Do I owe
back?
the money back?
Or just not that month? And then it starts in the next month? How does that work?
So I got an idea. How about we give everybody who passes the background check and gets their own gun $150 worth of ammo to start off with?
Wow, yeah.
It's probably around like 50, but you know.
Brett from Marin County Supervisor.
There you go.
I'm in Orange County, but if I leave Orange County, I can't be part of the organization.
I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know if you heard about that. That was
Yeah, I
oh my
did.
God, that's crazy.
Never heard
This is
about
why Texans and other parts of the country are laughing at us.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in Montana a few weeks ago, and a lady at the store says, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, I really don't want to tell you. And she's like, "Come on, man, it's California." It's like, "Welcome to America."
Yeah. I have friends in both. In Montana, consider itself Northern Command, and Texas is Southern Command, right? Yeah. And then Montana, no offense to my Montana listeners or in Bozeman, but they say, if you're gonna move to Montana, don't go to Bozeman. That's Los Angeles, what they call it. That's where all the Californians go. Everywhere else, you're good to go in Montana.
So some of my, I have a lot of clients that are in Montana, Idaho, and those states. I asked them about the folks moving there. Surprisingly, they're saying the folks that are moving there are not the problem. It's the younger generation that are being educated by the educators that are turning their minds away.
From outside now.
And that's where it is. So along those lines, just recently I heard something on the radio a week ago or two, and it made a lot of sense. You know, they took the father out of the family a long time ago. So a lot of men are being raised by mothers. Most teachers are women as well. So the majority of these young men that are growing up don't have a masculinity good impression, and they're being raised by women. Now again, nothing wrong with being raised by women, but you still, son or daughter, you still need a man in your life. My daughter taught me how to be a better parent. She's, you know, I hopefully taught her to look for some good in men, and she's got a great husband. So I'm hoping that some of these young guys that may have not had a good male role model in their world will reach out and start looking for that, because I think that is also one of our biggest causes in our society, is the lack of a man in the house.
Yeah. Both ways, right? Single mom, even single dad.
Single dad.
You need to have a mother's influence as well. Right?
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. You know, everybody has different situations, circumstances where you become a single parent. And I'm not. It just makes it a tougher road, but you know, it makes it tougher, but it's definitely doable. You know?
But there is that bias in the classrooms too, just generally. I mean, for both men and women, whoever, educators definitely have a bias against this version of civil rights. They like a different version, which is increasing government power at the expense of the individual. That's a really dangerous road, as world history teaches us, and so that's why what you're doing is so important. Reaching young people outside of school, it's really an educational experience. Getting them to think about, what are my rights? What are my options? Like, what kind of government do I really want? What should we have?
And this, you know, now I just think about it, this is a great stepping stone for the younger generation to move on. And it's, even myself, who's a big gun advocate, I train constantly working, instructing, and also training. This would be a great skill builder, or keeping your skill levels up. And like we talked about earlier, the lack of, the fact that I'm not putting $150 down range every time I go train, I can do more stuff. I can still develop the motor skills, which in turn creates more the muscle memory for a response, God forbid, if I'm ever in a situation.
Well, with that, it's great to have you guys.
Thank you.
We're going to close this podcast, and then we're going to get some guns to your hands.
Oh
yeah.
Awesome.
And until next month. Where are we? Until next month. See you guys later. Okay, guys, that's it for this episode. As always, we'll end with a famous quote from a famous person or character. And if you know who said this, please email us at info@Taccityairsoft.com, and we will mention you on the air and also give you a special prize. All right, so with that being said, here's the quote: "It is better to fail at originality than to succeed in imitation." See you next week.